The Ambassador Bridge doesn't just connect the US and Canada. Rather, it links one automotive capital, Detroit, Michigan, to another, Windsor, Ontario. And their industries are tightly welded together. But Donald Trump's new 25% tariffs on imported cars and certain car parts are aimed at getting more production within the US border, leaving Windsor and its more than 90 automotive companies and suppliers out in the cold.
It feels like the death of somebody who's very close to us in the family, right? Because we are so intertwined.
Jonathan Azzopardi is the president of Laval Tools, which builds tools and equipment to make car parts. It's not yet completely clear how much auto suppliers and their suppliers in turn are going to feel the effects of the tariffs, as full details of the policy are still emerging. But pain is expected all along the supply chain.
People will have to take drastic steps to be able to manage that because nobody can swallow a 25% tariff. Not my clients, not me, nobody can. We may have to make decisions that we weren't prepared for, and we will likely have to pivot into something that we aren't today, right? A US entity, establishing the United States, trying to figure out some way to fulfill those obligations on both sides of the border, because that's ultimately what President Trump wants.
And as companies in Windsor consider their options, it's hard for them to ignore that even more tariffs could be on the horizon. There's the other 25% duty on most Canadian imports that the White House levied in March, but delayed implementing. Bruce Lane makes car parts that cross the border back and forth several times for treatment and processing, along many stages of manufacturing, before eventually landing in finished cars.
Our parts are on a large number of vehicles built. I call it used to be called the Big Three, General Motors, Chrysler, Ford, but now I call it the Group of Seven, because you got Hyundai in there, and Honda, and Toyota, and Nissan, those kind of things. And maybe on most all of them, we have one or two parts on the different vehicles that they make.
But on-again, off-again tariff policies have made it difficult to plan his expenses and to understand which tariff applies to what, whom, when, and where.
I would say not everybody understands who bears what cost.
He, too, is considering a pivot, not by moving to the U.S., but by concentrating on a new product line to sell domestically: modular steel frames for construction. He's hoping a bet on business, kept within Canada's borders, could eventually afford him some security long-term.
I worry for my grandchildren's futures, my children's futures. I just worry that it's going to be a knock on the economy, and there's going to be a lot of people affected by it. Everybody's going to be affected by it.
And it's this question around the future that everyone has in Windsor, as they look across the river to their American neighbor. It's about whether the economic ties will hold or whether tariffs will tear them apart.